And also, I mean, obviously you were partly joking about the reckless stuff there, about how he's going to complain and all this sort of thing. But if you think about his history, not only, it's not just that Fnatic won the league, so it's obvious that like the grass is greener over there, but I would imagine him having left for a while and played with other support players has made him realise, like, yeah, I should probably reunited with that Yellowstar guy. He's pretty good, actually.
Quite possibly. I do think the grass is greener syndrome is pretty relevant to Reckless, and hopefully he can grow up a little bit and stop his public whining, because I don't think that's good for his team or the scene or anything like that. And he just has to realize that this is the life he's chosen and that not everything is going to be perfect. And as far as pro players does, he's got it pretty good. Hate to tell you, buddy, but there's a lot of pro players in the world who have it a lot shittier than you do. So shut up.
So basically, you went from analysis there to literally Reckless is now. Picture the scene. Reckless is sat in a chair at a dinner table. It's sort of about 6:30, like the sun's starting to go down, but it's not quite darkened in the room. Okay, Monty, the stern father, is sat there, and he's like, "Now you're going to eat those fish fingers. I know you don't like them, but your mother has prepared them. You're going to show appreciation for what she cooked. And you know, there's children out here in Africa that are starving right now. They'd love those fish fingers." So, like, that's basically you gave the LOL equivalent of that, Monty, to young
right.
Reckless. Okay,
that's right. Somebody's got to be a dad to these kids.
I see. Well, that's why when you were in CLG, Doublelift kind of emotionally ran away from CLG, Monty. You know, it's the same stuff. See, there's a famous quote, Monty, that says that like the lessons of life will be repeated until we learn from them. You know, believe it or not, LCK. What do you think of Edward forgiving bot lane?
You mean Gosu Pepper?
Gosu Pepper, yeah.
I do like that he's going back to that.
It's a sick name, isn't it? I don't know why you ever went to Edward. It's a crap name.
Yeah, I agree.
Dude, which name's better? The name that you picked, Gosu Pepper, with like capitalizations, which just sounds toxic as fuck, by the way. I know Edward probably didn't think of that. Or the name that your mother just picked when you were born as a little baby, like, oh, Edward, I think I'll call him. Like, that doesn't strike fear into anyone's hearts. Whereas Gosu Pepper's like, what the fuck? Like, that sounds awesome.
Well, I like the fact that he's going back to it. As for why he changed it in the first place, it was perhaps coming out of his toxic chrysalis as a beautiful butterfly.
I know that was the story. That was like the official narrative, wasn't it, Monty? But what I loved about Edward was he did what okay, I'll come clean, guys. I actually, in some ways, I've alluded to this on previous shows, Monty. I actually have some friends who are players, okay? You actually wouldn't guess, because I call some of them shit on this show, because some of them play like shit. But I particularly like the ones who are perceived as toxic, and all I do is I counsel them, sort of like Sith Lord would of his apprentice, but before like the Sith are allowed to show themselves. Like the first half of Phantom Menace, I'm like, you know, like, bide your time, youngling. Like we will have our chance for revenge. So like I just tell them like to mask themselves and to how to pretend like they've been rehabilitated. And so Edward's a good example of this, okay, because he's the sort of person where it seemed to the outside world like, wow, he's really turned himself around. He's such a fun-loving guy. Like, he's not toxic in any way. But someone's even leaked this a bunch of times. It was Eamon, the player who was at one point the jungler for NiP, put this screenshot up. And so people must have seen it by now. So I can now repeat the story, okay? So in this screenshot, it's when Gambit was scrimming against NiP when they had like Nuke Doc and Eamon and Mithy and all those guys. And obviously that's like a fairly toxic environment in itself. There's going to be shit talking. It's a scrim as well. And in the screenshot, it just says, Edward just says, Eamon, I hope you get into LCS next split so I can take a shit in your mouth. And it's just like that alone is so... That is so perfect and so beautiful. That's why I love Edward right there. That explains it. Believe it or not, LCK. First of all, he has this opening part where he explains about the sort of conditions they had when as he says, at the end of the season 4, we had the most success. Like, I want to sit him down right there and just go, you know, you actually didn't have any success, right? Like, once you were mathematically unable to make the playoffs, you stole a few games on the way out the door when there was no pressure on you anymore. You know that isn't actually success, Pobelter. Like, you know how Copenhagen Wolves got to the playoffs in Europe and then immediately went out like 3-1 or something? That's not even success, mate. That's like almost getting to success and then not being able to have success, you know. Like, when Lucy puts the football down onto the ground, that is not a field goal in any context, okay? Even kicking it like Copenhagen Wolves do, and she pulls it away, that's like you're getting closer to success. You're doing all the parts are in place, but you still have to A, kick the football, and B, have it go over the goal. Okay. Now, probably you haven't even kicked a ball yet. A ball was just placed onto the ground, and then someone said, "Oh, I see you are both incapable of kicking it and lack the rudimentary components required to, in fact, kick a field goal." And you were like, well, you did say that I could have kicked a field goal, so it's over. Believe it or not, LCK. And so we also get to what is probably one of the funniest, unintentionally funniest sentences I think I've ever seen a pro gamer write, okay? And you can probably even guess which one it is. It goes like this. It was really a terrible idea to have gone with Imagine, but at the time, it didn't seem like a bad choice, because I trusted Helios a lot, who trusted Paragon a lot, who trusted Imagine a lot. Now, that's like a children's sort of storybook way of writing a sentence out, to make a little song out of it, and to have repetition, and to make it easily understandable for the kids, you know. Because, if anything, isn't that like almost the definition of a kind of House of Cards type scenario where one of these chains was to be broken? The whole thing is pretty much fucked. And remember, we're basing it on, I trust this person, who trusts this person, who trusts this person, who trusts it. So basically, like
the 4 degrees of separation.
Yeah. To someone who you trust, over him getting a player and you've played once with. Now, this is madness money. Like, at this point already, I'm wondering if, like, Pobelter's writing this while, like, with a Thorazine drip in, just retelling his stories as of like some news reporter who's come to the asylum when he's like 55. Like, so whatever happened to you, old man Pobelter? Why didn't you make a bigger league? Well, see, Sonny, I used to trust in Helios, who trusted in Imagine. Like, where's this going, man? Like, what the hell's going on here? Is this like a real story? And he says it in the most matter-of-fact way, as though, like, as you do, just trust 4 levels of trust deep. I have to correct you there, Monty. The management does enter into this. In also, I take it all back. This is even funnier. Are you ready? This line doesn't even have anything to do with Paul, but it's not his fault in any way. It's just so funny that I'm not even dissing the management of Winter Fox. I'll do that in a minute. I'll just read this sentence out here because it's fucking unbelievable. Are you ready? So it says, the firm that management had used to process visas ended up giving really bad advice and incorrectly said that the standard visa processing would be quicker than rush processing. Like, what even is this? What even is this? Did the management of Winter Fox trust the management of this, who trusted the postman, who trusted his wife, who once heard about a visa being processed and said, the thing about visas is the actual trick is because everyone is going for that fast processing. The real trick, the insider's trick, that's for the birds, man. That doesn't even do anything. You're supposed to pay for the standard one, the one that explicitly states it will take longer, and that actually goes faster. Like, that's not even debatable, dude. You can't even use that as an excuse at this point. It's even called rush processing. That's just unbelievable, isn't it? That line. That is unbelievable. That says everything about the management there, Monty. You had one job to figure out which of these two processes was faster, and you settled on standard. That's unbelievable. So yeah, that's about it. Believe it or not, LCK. People can't make excuses if they then are responsible for allowing the same things to happen to them again when points come where they have other options, okay? It's one thing if you're... Okay, here's an example. If you were Altec and last year you came into the team in a weird circumstances where there wasn't enough spaces for you, you had to sleep on the floor and you weren't catered to properly, and you came in too late to have a chance, okay, it's not your fault, any of that stuff, okay? That was all imposed upon you. But if you then re-sign and then the team does the same things and you don't complain about it, now you have to start saying, hey, maybe I can't complain about it anymore because I'm kind of a willing participant in this, I'm choosing to stay hostage when someone opened the door and said, you may now go free. I'm like, could I sign up for some more hostage? Can you chain me back up to the radiator, guys? Like, at that point, you're not really being held hostage anymore. You're part of that, okay? If it are not LCK. Everyone else in the world, as I kind of referenced also on the Alpha Draft show, the joke, okay, I'll mention it again now. One of the Liquid players made a comment about Emperor from Brazil, the former Blaze AD carry, and about how, well, he couldn't even win a lesser region, so like, how good is he? And I made the joke, well, every Korean and Chinese player could say that about you, a player on Team Liquid, like, well, you can't even make the finals of a shit region, so why would we think you are good? But obviously you yourself think you're good, and there is a lesson in perspective, my friends. See how differently that works? If it are not LCK.
And Emperor was a decent AD carry, and I'm sure he'll be perfectly serviceable in NA. But
really, Monty, decent was he? You remember how many dude, I had to like deprogram you out of like the Loco Doco Scientology OT level 4 that Emperor should be like the true carry of Blaze and is like the third best AD carry in all of Korea and all that. I had to like bring you down slowly, like it's like I had to bring you out of a slow trance. Like it's like you had Alzheimer's, Monty, and I was like reminding you that I was actually your son. Like, look, Monty, look, there's a picture of you, and who's that? You're like, I don't know. It's Billy? Is it Billy? I'm like, no, that's me, Monty. Look, there's us at the OGN finals. You remember that? You're like, wait a minute. If you were at the OGN, are you my son? Like, yes, it was Monty. Emperor isn't actually the third best AD carry in Korea. He's not. He's not at all. Come on, man. How have you gone off the boil so hard on this guy? He was a good player. He was a solid player at OGN level.
He is
OGN level.
And OGN level back when there were more good AD carries too. We'll see how he does. I just am skeptical about his time in Brazil and whether that was good training and whether his level has dropped off or anything like that.
I mean, it's not like he's going to come in playing fucking Mordekaiser AD carry, is he? I'm sure he just plays better champions still and knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, just because I've already gone in on you about Emperor and Seraph, he's not even in this league. But if I wanted to, I could then go into a tangent about what you used to think about Daydream. But I won't do that right now.
I think Daydream could have been.
Yeah, you used to hype the fuck out of him as well.
I would be more excited about Daydream than Emperor coming into this lineup. It's true.
I had to take you on a scale of flameology from Lord Loco to Thorin. I had to take you through that whole spectrum, Monty, but eventually you came out the right side at the end, so it's okay. It's okay. We got to the right place at the end.
We did it together.
It was a hard journey, but we made it through the rain. If it are not LCK. And Kiwi Kid, man alive, he just keeps stealing them checks. I don't know how he does it. It's amazing in some ways. Like, I have to give him props in some ways. It's like if you steal, it's like, in a movie, a great heist movie, if someone just luckily breaks into a bank and steals some jewels, you're like, well, you're a thief, you should be arrested. But if they do it and they keep getting away with it and the odds are so insurmountable, but somehow you almost start to pull for them. You want them to get away with it, you want them to get past those cops and to get away in the end. See, the problem with that is that actually I don't want Kiwi Kid to get away with it. I actually want him to be caught red-handed and then to realise that he had, the whole time, he was just messing around and he actually had like some of those fake glasses with the nose attached and the moustache, and that was his attempt at a disguise to get out of the bank with, and that it never should have succeeded at any point in time, and that they upgrade the security in the bank, which is LCS, and finally get him out of the vault. Because I don't know how he's getting in there to get these checks. In a world where like Alex Itch couldn't get on a team for like 2 splits, and then the whole thing's just criminal, dude. So okay, that's enough about Dignitas. If it are not LCK. And by the way, Monty, here's what's beautiful about the world we've created. The engineering of what we've done with this show, Monty. Let's just listen, I feel like we don't take enough moments to just appreciate ourselves, to give ourselves props, to be a little bit smug. I feel like we should be more smug, Monty. We're too humble, we're too kind of like, we give all the credit to other people, but the genius of this show, if I may say so myself, is that, like I've mentioned before, by making these hyperbolic statements, which are extreme, but also what we genuinely think, if we're wrong, people will link to that point in the VOD, like 8 months from now, when this team like finishes third in LCS and goes to Worlds, and then say, oh, look at these idiots, quick, click on their video and give them more ad revenue and fame. Or, here's the genius, you know what the other side is, Monty? If somehow we're right, people will link to the video and say the profits were correct. They knew exactly, and give us more ad revenue and fame. Like, we can't lose.
It's infallible. We've done it, Thorin.
They haven't thought it through. They just haven't thought it through, have they?
We have wormed our way into the collective unconscious to such a staggering degree that
you know what, Monty? We are the Kiwi kids of of League of Legends content. Even if we do badly, we succeed. Then, when we get it right every now and then, people are like, well, I usually think they're shit. So that's amazing that they've got it right. Bravo! You are actually good after all. I always said you were good. That's it. There's the analogy for us. See, Kiwi kid, I'm not afraid to take shots at myself, mate. I can bring myself there. You are the analogy for me in this particular sense. So, in which case, that would make Monty, I'm a cutie pie, because he has a very particular niche appeal, and he also probably could make more money just by streaming right now. So
that's
there we go.
True, actually.
I've the analogy is complete, finally, Monty. I've successfully done it there. And also, just ironically, I'm a Nami main, so little fact for you guys there. Don't go and look at my account. I also play other champions. Believe it or not, LCK. Santorin and Dyrus, I don't even know if they were ever formally introduced. I think they're kept in separate wings of that. I think at this point, Dyrus is actually just kept in the attic, fed on a bucket of fish heads that is pulled up on a winch or something. And then they go up every now and then just to tell him ominous stuff like, you'll be playing Lulu this week. And then they go, and then they just wait until it's LCS time and they bring him out. And they have someone like clean him up and put on a TSM uniform. You remember what you'll say in the interview afterwards? Good. That'll sound funny.
You're basically saying that Dyrus is Reek from Game of Thrones.
I think if anything, Reek got off easy compared to what's happened to Dyrus. Because what's happened to Dyrus, spoilers aside, turn off now if you don't want to hear about Game of Thrones, is if anything, what's happened to Dyrus is if not only all that humiliation and horrible torture happened, but then all of the people of Winterfell were also like, no, we agree with this. You deserve it. That's basically what it's like, you know. That's how horrible it's actually gotten. By the way, did you like my tweet, Monty, where I actually think that the real person who's like Reek at this point is... Actually, maybe it's me who's Reek, because of what's happened to Flame. What I've had to watch happen to other people. I am Reek being forced to observe, as now Flame, after all the indignities he's suffered, Monty, like where they still to this day play fucking Kennen, and it's never him who plays it, and he is now a Gnar main... Ignore that for a second. Then I get the great news that they're bringing in as the coach of his... Like, how much more indignity do I have to suffer? It's the same scenario as with that Game of Thrones example, Monty. The problem with that storyline is so much horrible shit has happened to that guy that there is no possible positive outcome at the end of the story that would make it all worthwhile. Even if he literally becomes a White Walker, transforms into a god of Westeros with some magical sword of thunder, cuts off every fucker's head who did all that shit, wrecks them all, becomes the god king of the world. That still would not make up for all the shit that's happening at this point. It's the same with Flame on LGD now. Nothing can actually fix it, Money. Even if you somehow got back to Korea, got into a team, won LCK, it wouldn't even matter because fucking... it was Bengi, admittedly. Bengi and Easy, who'd already won LCKs easily. Fucking Ambition as a jungler almost got to the fight. Like, none of it matters anymore, Monty. There's no good can come from this situation anymore. It's over. It's over. And I'm just forced to bear witness to this. That's the worst part of it all. It's like no one else truly understands the tragedy of it. I had to be there to be the one person who could witness and know how fucked up this was and how it should have gone differently. It's like I really did travel through dimensions from a great timeline where it all went well. So I know how it should have gone and I've had to experience this darkness. Believe it or not, LCK. It's okay, Monty, because again, to reference the intro to this show, this is another example of why we will always be relevant as a show, Monty. Because here's the thing. There are people out there who have lots of knowledge on China. Really awesome stuff. Kelsey, Froscorin, Papa Smithy. They have all this great info. But the problem is, no one wants to hear it from them. So what we're going to do, as usual, is we're going to listen to them, just be directed where to look, so we don't have to do all that horrible work of having to watch all the shite games. Then we watch the games, come back here, because we're accepted personalities, we then just tell you the stuff that they could have told you in much better detail, but through our prism of experience, and then we get all the money, accolades, praise, fame, and attention from it, which I feel is actually the right way. I feel like that's actually finally, a break went our way, Monty. I feel like that everything's right in the world in many ways, light a candle up.
It's so sad that is true.
It is in many ways. But we will throw them a bone every now and then by allowing them to come on some of the least popular episodes of Summoning Insight. But that's what charity's about, Monty. It's about something bigger than yourself. It's not about money. It's about giving back to people, the little people. People who are starving. If you had a morsel to give, wouldn't you give it off your table, Monty?
I would. That's the kind of soul I am.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to LCK. Do you what you know about LCK, Monty?
Do I?
I notice. I don't know if anyone has kept track of this, but you've never actually referred to it as LCK on this show,
or anywhere else.
Why is that though?
I don't like it. Because it's always been Champions to me. No one in Korea knows it as LCK. It's called LOL Champs in Korea.
See, I've got to warn you right now, Monty. You're veering into very dangerous territory. Like, remember, we were always at war with East Asia. Like, I've gone back in the history books, and it says LCK all the way back, Monty. Like, there never was an OGN, Monty. That's just a dream of you and Emmanuel Goldstein. That never happened, Monty. Like, you seem to be forgetting what's actually going on here. It's very important that you actually become a patriot like me of the Riot system, because otherwise you will be stamped. Well, the joke obviously is beaten forever with a red fist. That's a vision of your future.
It's the future I always dreamed of.
So, let me think. LCK. I've even started calling it that. I don't know when I did it. It got to me though. Eventually, it's like those catchy jingles got to me, Believe it or not, LCK.